I'm Annie Hopper, founder and CEO of the Dynamic Neuroretraining System, or DNRS. And today I will be sharing a remarkable and inspiring story that one of our DNRS clients shared on our global community forum. This client, who we will call Christine, shared her experience after implementing the program for 1 month to help her recover from limbic system impairment. She had suffered with a myriad of symptoms for over 10 years, and her quality of life took a significant dive after her conditions worsened following a period of extreme emotional stress 6 years ago. After reading her blog post, I will answer some common questions we receive that this healing story might prompt for you. So grab your favorite warm drink and get comfortable as I read you this inspiring blog post. So Christine is recovering from limbic system impairment involved in food sensitivities, environmental allergies, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and adrenal fatigue. So here's Christine's story in her own words as she wrote on our global community forum. I can hardly believe it's been a month since I started DNRS. 1 month ago today, I purchased the DNRS program. So that means it's probably been about 3.5 to 4 weeks of actually implementing the 5 pillars. I now fully believe my symptoms are all limbic in origin. My challenges really began decades ago, but my quality of life wasn't fully affected until a season of extreme emotional stress 6 years ago. That alone lends itself to limbic system impairment. I am on an indefinite social media break thanks to DNRS. I realize that I feel much happier when I'm not mindlessly scrolling, potentially comparing my life to other people's lives. And I am doing my best to enjoy the present moment with myself, with my dog, my partner, my family, and nature. I've just recently found a new hobby of sorts that I'm really excited about. I feel like this season of discovery and recovery is allowing me to get to know and love myself in deeper ways. I've been practicing self-acceptance and self-compassion for a few years now, and with DNRS, I get to take that to the next level. I've tried a few foods that I have not eaten for months in the last week and had little to no reactions or symptoms as a result. That is amazing. I am no longer scared of foods, and this is huge for me. My mood is consistently high and consistently positive. I'm learning to create energetic boundaries when I'm around people who are, in my opinion, being less than positive. I remind myself that I don't need to absorb what they're saying, and I can listen without following them to that place. I'm learning how to gently shift the topic of discussion or simply ask, can we talk about something happier now? I think my love for my dog is growing, which I didn't even think was possible. I look at her several times a day and just feel a huge burst of love chemicals. Sometimes it makes me tear up, just looking at her and feeling all that love. In her defense, she makes it so easy. I am also noticing less resistance to rounds. It's still there, but it does seem to be lessening, which is exciting. I'm getting good at noticing my thought, emotion, and behavior patterns that are related to limbic system impairment. In fact, just this past week, I noticed 2 trains of thoughts that are definitely limbic system impairment related, but it had not occurred to me before. DNRS is also giving me the gift of forgiveness and allowing me to extend it both to myself and others. My limbic system has, I think, been hesitant to let go of some anger and bitterness I have held on to. But as I lovingly redirect my limbic reactions, I remind myself it's okay to let the past live in the past. I find I'm able to make the conscious decision to forgive. Of course, the feelings don't always align with the decision immediately, and old thought and emotional patterns still come up, but I gently remind myself that I am choosing to forgive. This is pivotal for me in more ways than I can even go into here. I am so grateful. This is truly living. I am eager to see what the next 30 days will hold. I've got this. If you're anything like me, Christine's story really warmed your heart. When she says, "I think my love for my dog is growing," which I didn't know was even possible, I can feel my own heart growing as I read these loving and inspiring words. The DNRS program is not just about healing. It's about giving people an even greater and fuller experience of life than they had even before they began suffering from their conditions. A story like Christine's might prompt some questions for you about the program. Let's dive into 4 common questions we receive from people that are considering the program. What are the 5 pillars? The program is designed around 5 key elements required for success in rewiring your limbic system. The first pillar is to recognize the link between your brain and your condition. This mindset introduces a new way of thinking about how brain function may be involved in your condition. The second pillar is to interrupt and redirect your pathways of the past, or what we call POPs. And this pillar focuses on how to interrupt old neural pathways that keep the brain in a state of survival and learn to redirect our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to create new positive neural pathways. Pillar 3 is to practice full rounds of the DNRS retraining steps. The steps utilize a variety of methods that involve speech, movement, visualization, and thought and emotional restructuring. The intention of this step is to decrease firing of threat centers in the brain by flooding the brain with neurotransmitters and hormones related to a state of growth and repair. The limbic system retraining steps are not about immediate symptom relief, although sometimes an immediate change in symptoms may be noticed. The goal is to rewire the limbic system and regulate the stress response. Pillar 4 is apply incremental training. This pillar involves changing trauma and fear associations along with graduated exposure therapy, and that can be imaginary and real. This desensitizes the brain and strengthens positive neural pathways that lead to optimal health. And pillar 5 is to elevate your emotional state. Elevating your emotional state helps to provide a cue of safety to the brain, allowing for the brain to move out of survival-related emotions and pave the way for positive neuroplastic changes. In some ways, rewiring your limbic system is like learning how to drive a car or to ride a bicycle. At first, it might seem very complex to remember all the steps involved when merging onto the highway or when finding your sense of balance for the first time on a bicycle. But like all learned skills, rewiring your limbic system gets easier with practice. Another question is it common for people to notice a difference in their mood when they start to implement the program? While it is common for people to be focused on seeing changes in physical symptoms, oftentimes your mood will be the first thing that you notice is changing. Keep in mind that changes will happen on physical, emotional, and psychological levels. People may find that they smile more or can access positive feelings that they haven't been able to access for a long time. This is a really positive sign that your limbic system is in the process of change. Remember, when we are in a constant fight, flight, or freeze response, we don't usually have access to joy or positive emotions because they are not viewed as important to our survival. Gaining access to positive emotions again is a sign that your brain is moving out of that alarm state. Our Share a Laugh classes are a great way to elevate your emotional state and get your brain to remember what it's like to feel joy. You can actually fake it until you genuinely start to feel it. I always say that one of the biggest side effects of rewiring your limbic system is to have access to joy again. Having access to positive emotions again also means that you can feel the increase in bonding between you and other people, animals, or nature. I remember a past participant who was a young mother, and she said to me once, I love my daughter, but I just can't feel it. You can imagine how thrilled she was when she started to recover and could actually feel the love that she had for her daughter again. Another question is, do I have to believe that all of my symptoms fall under limbic system impairment in order for the program to work for me? You don't have to believe that your symptoms will go away in order to have success with the program. And it's okay if you don't know if a symptom will go away or not, or if it's related to limbic system impairment or not. You don't have to figure it out. All you need to do is apply the 5 pillars, and in time, the proof will be in the pudding. And it's okay for you to receive other forms of support for your body while you are doing the program. If anything, recalibrating your nervous system will help other treatments take hold. You may also find that over time you don't need other treatments anymore. And if you are like most people, you will be pleasantly surprised when symptoms fall away that you didn't even realize were related to limbic system impairment. That's the really fun and surprising part. For example, I cannot even begin to tell you how many people have reported that their monthly cycle came back when they hadn't had it for a very long time and were not expecting it to. Crazy, right? And yes, we have a number of DNRS babies because of this. Another common question is it common for people to be resistant to doing full rounds of the DNRS steps? Yes, it can be quite common to notice resistance to doing full rounds. This can happen for a number of reasons, but the one that I'd really like to point out is that when you have limbic system impairment, you are stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze response. And your brain and body are accustomed to a specific neurochemical set point that is largely based on stress hormones. As you actually start to implement the program, you are changing your neurochemical signature. This is different for the brain and body, and although it is positive, the brain can unconsciously view this change as potentially threatening, and it's not what you have been conditioned to feeling. As you continue to implement the program, like forming any new positive habit, it will get easier over time. In order to help you work through procrastination and resistance, you might try pairing your full rounds of the DNRS steps with something else that you're already doing during the day. Like, every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to do a full round of the DNRS steps. Or every time I eat a meal, I'm going to do a full round of the DNRS steps. And remember, you're always going to be thinking of your challenge before you actually do the steps. but that's explained more clearly in the online program. When you're feeling that kind of resistance to practice, I just like to adopt that Nike slogan in this situation and say, just do it. And if you need support, please reach out to us on the Global Community Forum, or perhaps you want added accountability by booking regular sessions with our certified DNRS coaches. Or you can join our 12-week Living DNRS sessions. Know that we are here to support you every step of the way. You've got this. Another question is, with all of the negative news in the world today, how do you stay in a good headspace and keep applying the program? I know it can be really challenging to stay in a good headspace to keep applying the program with all of the negative news going on. That's why it's really important to look at what information you are feeding your mind and what you are focused on. One of the challenges with limbic system impairment is that the brain's negativity bias becomes exaggerated. I mean, we all naturally look for what's going wrong before we look at what's going right. And you can imagine that with a threat response gone rogue in the brain, that our negativity bias becomes very magnified, and we will tend to focus on that. I would really recommend that people stop watching the news and also elevate your emotional state as much as possible. I know it sounds almost counterintuitive, but when we focus on the goal of rewiring the limbic system, we need to move our focus away from fear and towards rewiring the brain. I would highly recommend utilizing our support services so you can stay connected to a community of people who are all focused on healing.